This is Mike. If you're viewing this, it's because you have an interest in using Obsidian to play For Against Darkness. For Against Darkness is a dungeon delving game designed for pencil and paper, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I loved using that myself, but I also, from time to time, and especially when I'm traveling, prefer to use it on my computer. And the way that I've decided to do that is I use the Obsidian note taking app to do so. But first things first, if you're going to do use the Obsidian as I do to play For Against Darkness, you're going to need to have the copy of the For Against Darkness PDF file. I am not going to distribute that myself. It's not mine. So I hardly recommend that you make sure that you have that, because this is how I've got Obsidian set up. It's to make specific use of the For Against Darkness file. You'll also need to install Obsidian. Obsidian is a note-taking app. It's essentially a wiki on a MySQL database. It saves its notes in Markdown. I use it for work. I use it for personal items. I use it for playing games. And what I've done is I've created a method to use Obsidian note-taking app to actually do the dungeon dives per the Ganesha Games For Against Darkness method. And it seems to be working fairly well, so that's what I'm going to show you. Obsidian is free to use, and it works on every platform, so don't worry about it. I use that on Windows, I use it on Linux, and I use it on my Android phone. And the screen that you're looking at right now is the Obsidian note-taking app. You can see the screen is divided into two general parts. On the left-hand side, you can see a file or directory hierarchy. You can close that out if you don't like seeing it by clicking on the upper left corner icon. I've got it set up in file hierarchy because it makes it easier. On the right hand side is the actual note-taking app page, and this is where you will create notes. What you're looking at right now is a note called 4AD. I have a tag under it that's tag guide, and I'll show you how I use tags. And in this note, what you're looking at right here is one getting started is simply a link to another note. Remember I said that Obsidian Notes is a wiki, so this is actually just a link. And if I click on it, I can either go there by clicking here, getting started, or I can click over here inside the body of the note. And if I do that, you'll now see that I've got some more information for you on getting started. And this information can be folded and unfolded. These notes are all written in Markdown, by the way, if you're familiar with Markdown. So let's go back here where we started, and I want to show you another screen that I use quite a bit, and this is the graph view. So what you're looking at right now is every colored dot is a note. And the note that we looked at first, this For Against Darkness note, is this note right here. And if I click on that, you can see that we get there. So there's more than one ways to get to a note. And this is very typical of Obsidian, that you have more than one way to do things. So what you're looking at right here in this kind of a light bluish green, teal, whatever you want to call it, and the green, this is the information that I've created that anybody can use in order to use Obsidian Notes to do a dungeon crawl using the For Against Darkness method by Ganesha Games. And so what I've done is I've got a node right here. This note that just simply has links in it. And then here's some of the links. I've got the getting started that you already saw, and a guide flowchart. So this is the first item that you'll see that actually comes directly from Ganesha Games. I'll talk a little bit more about how you get these and put them in here. And on the green ones, the green notes here, I've got them. The colors, by the way, come from the tags that I'm using. That's the whole reason I'm using tags in this simple adventure, is just to make it a little bit easier when you get on the screen here. If you have a whole bunch of adventures, you're going to color code them so it's easier to tell what you're dealing with. So all of the greens are templates, and so I've created templates for character sheets. And of course, since this is a note-taking app, you can change this and do whatever you want in here. This is pretty much the simplest that I've come up with, is just to put all the information in here like this. So that's the character sheet template. Then I have a template for the entrance rooms. And you can see some information here. Place a room image here, roll 1d6. And it gives a little bit of information, rolling dice. The 1d6, when it says go to the left toolbar, I'm going over here to the left. You can see that there's a simulate all dice right here. This is a community plugin that we're using to do the dice rolls. You don't have to do that. You could roll them by hand with physical dice if you wanted. And we have, let's see, encounters. I found it made sense for me to have encounters set up as a separate note. And an entrance room. And what we're going to want to do is take a look at the canvas, if I can figure out how to get the hell to the canvas. I don't know why it's not showing up. It should be showing up in here unless I've managed to screw it up somehow. There it is. Oh, okay, I see what's going on. I've only created a canvas for one of the dungeon crawls, the example dungeon crawl that I've got in here. But this is very cool. So essentially what you got, the canvas is like a big whiteboard. You can put anything on, pin anything in. You can put notes in here, you can put images in here, and what you've seen is what I've done is I use the canvas essentially to do my dungeon mapping. And so what I have is I have separate images that I've clipped from the PDF files of every single one of the rooms, and that was a chore of and by itself. And all I'm simply doing is dragging those over from the files or images and rooms over here where I have them saved as files. I drag an image over and pop it in, and then I can resize it. One thing you cannot do, which is a bit of a pain in the butt, is you cannot rotate an image once it's in the canvas. So the way that I get around that is, you can see over here on the left hand side, what I've done is I have gone ahead and rotated them in another piece of software and clipped them out, which is kind of a cumbersome and onerous way to do things, but that's what I've had to do so far. So whereas I have room 11 here, room 11 rotated clockwise plus 90 degrees, and that's essentially how I'm dealing with it. But as you go through the dungeon crawl, going from the entrance into the first room, second room, third room, I paste them on there, and then if I were going to go to the left and out this door instead of what I did, which is out that door, then I would put the next room to the side. And then I made notes inside the canvas, and I like to essentially give an overview of what happened in that room. So that's the canvas. Let's go ahead and get back here. And if you remember, we were in Chasing Butterflies, and we had CB1, Chasing Butterflies 1 was the entrance room. So there's the entrance room. So this is a separate note, and I go ahead and I put the entrance room in it. And you'll see these codes for rolling the dice. We'll talk about that later. And then I essentially do what I'm going to do. Party decides to go through the center door. And I believe that what I've done is I've put the marching order in the encounters, or you can actually put your marching order right in here. And then here's a link to the room that we go through. We went through the center door, and we went to room 1, which turned out to be room number 63. So we put that in there, and if you take a look at the canvas, again, you'll see room 1, the first room that we did was 63, so I have a note for this room, and I have the room image in here, and I have a note about what happened. So Eamon Ree found a magic mace, he dropped his sling, but we were attacked by vampiric butterflies, we killed one, and we almost shat ourselves. Okay, an idea of how you work back and forth in here. And so you can see we went from the entrance room into room 1. From room 1 we went to room 2. Room 2 we went to room 3. And as it just so happened in this particular adventure, I turned and went back the same way to get back to room 1. Now if I had branched off and gone to another through a side door at room 2 into another room, over here you'd see a branch coming off over here. This particular note right here that I've got attached to the Chasing Butterflies dungeon crawl, you see I've got it attached simply because I put in a link to the Butterfly Gang. This is essentially my gang. And here we are. We have Eamon Rhee. Here's his level, life, gold, attack, defense. A lot of times what I like to do is, just as a reminder to myself, is I'll copy and paste information from the PDF file into here so that I'll know information that's specific to that person, what kind of weapons they're using, what kind of spells they're using, and so on. So all of this information is not typed in, it's just copied and pasted out of the PDF and put into here. Works quite well. So here's my butterfly gang and information on them, and then as they change levels, I just change the level in their name. Put a few other notes in here about them, things that they've done, and just change this information on the fly as conditions change. And so this butterfly gang, you'll see again, here's the butterfly gang. And this note is what you're seeing right here. And this information is within the body of the note. We're just using Markdown to be able to show or hide the information. And then this is a link to the Chasing Butterflies adventure, dungeon crawl, which you can see over here as the Chasing Butterflies dungeon crawl. So I'll give you a little bit feel for that. So let's take a look at how we would set things up. So if you go to the Getting Started, we've got some information here. Set up your plugins. So you will have to go to the community plugins in Obsidian, and I'm trying to keep it to a minimum, the community plugins, so we're just going to use the simple dice roller. And this tells you how to install it and how to use it. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to set up your folders. So this would be setting up the folders over here to the left. And so you would set up an Adventurers and Adventures, Chasing Butterflies, this particular dungeon crawl, so you'd set that folder up. You'd set this folder up at this level, this folder, and so on. So create that, and I've got some information up there. Set up your adventure characters, so fill out your character sheets. So what you would do is you go down to your templates, you get a template character sheet, and you right-click, make a copy, save it, and then I would move that file over into your Adventurers folder, which is what I've done when I created that. Then you would also then go in and set up your adventures, set up your dungeon map. So this is where you go to create a canvas. And so you go to your adventure and new canvas, and you would have a blank canvas right here, untitled, and it's canvas. So what I set to do is I set it up, and this is the one for Chasing Butterflies, and the very first room in there, of course, is that what I rolled the dice on and created that entrance room. So now we've set up the dungeon map, and then here are a few tips that you might use. So really basically, if you have to go through this, you're going to have to learn a little bit about Obsidian. This isn't an Obsidian guide. Let's see what we're going to do now. We're going to go in here, and I'm going to show you how to use the actual dungeon dice. Okay, I've got the community plugin for the die roller. I've got it set in here. There's information in the community plugin that tells you how to roll die, but if I wanted to roll 1d6, so I just 1d6, click over here, and on the right hand side, And there's a whole bunch of these here because in this room I've done the 1d6 a bunch of times. It just keeps stacking them. You'd look at the top, and so I've got a simulated 1d6 4. So I've rolled 1d6 4. Now if I had to roll 1d6 plus a level 3, for example, and I roll it, it's going to say simulated 1d6 plus 3, and my result is 4. It's that simple. Once you've got everything working and running. I want to show you now a little bit of information about how I've got the files set up. So you're going to have a folder set up for you, but you're not going to have a note in here yet. You're going to create your own characters from the template and put that note in here. This is the actual dungeon crawls, so you'll have a subfolders. You've got nested folders. I've called this one Chasing Butterflies, and in here you're going to create some various notes. So for example, here's the Chasing Butterflies. This is the node note. So if you go over here and you see this central note with branches coming off it, this is the node, N-O-D-E, and that's the Chasing Butterflies. So you'll set one up for your dungeon crawl. Then you'll set up, I like to do a diary. You don't have to do a diary, but as I'm going through and doing encounters and this and that, I'm recording the information, and I like to turn it into a story. So that's what you're looking at right now. Also, when I do this, I like to start off with a kind of a preamble, kind of setting the stage, getting a little bit of feel for getting to know the characters and so on, before I go to the dungeon proper. So they started off an evening out at the Flower Fart Pub. And you can see here, finally now they're starting the adventure, Chasing Butterflies. And then the result of this, all of this here, cleaned up a little bit, came out step by step from doing the dungeon crawl. And it's kind of fun to do that. You'll set up a dungeon map, that's your canvas. You'll set up an encounters page, that's from the templates again. And then every time you have a room, including the entrance rooms, it's a separate note. And you'll see those are separate notes here. Here's the entrance room, here's the room 1, room 2, and room 3. So let's take a look in here. So we've looked at the adventurers, the adventures, other. So this is where I have cut all of these images. I have cut out of the PDF and saved them as separate images, and it's a very useful thing to do. And then same thing, likewise, for all of the tables. So here you can go straight to any of the tables, although in retrospect I think there's another way to do this where you don't have to do quite so much cutting of the tables. But I don't see any way around cutting all the rooms out as separate images. And like I said, on some of them you might need to create additional image files with them rotated 90, 180, and so on as you need them. I just do it on the fly as I need them. Here's my templates right here, and the guide flowchart, because I'm coming in here very commonly and looking at it very quickly, so I've got a separate note showed out over here, which is just clipped image out of the rulebook. And then here's the Fort Against Darkness rulebook. And here's how you could get away without having to clip all of these images here, all of the tables out. Because really, in essence, and what's kind of nice about this is that the Obsidian, and what's nice about the Fort Against Darkness PDF file is that they've got all of these bookmarks in there. So you don't really have to do all of these tables separately. I tend to find myself coming back in here to the rulebook and very quickly going down and finding what information that I need. Now earlier I said that in the Butterfly Gang, when I created my character sheet, I put some information in there to remind me. For example, here's a fireball spell and how that fireball spell works. Well, the way that I did that is I went to the rulebook and I went to the Fireball spell, which is here somewhere. Spells. Okay, here we are, Fireball. And what you can do is just select the text and then do a Control-C in Windows, copy, and then simply paste it into your character sheet. And that's exactly what I did and exactly how I got this information in here. I just did a cut and paste out of, or copy and paste out of the For Against Darkness rulebook. Okay, so once again, how do you do things? If I'm able to get this Obsidian Note vault out to you guys, what you'll see is you'll definitely have all of these blue and green notes set up, and I'll probably set up some skeleton notes for dungeon crawl over here on the side. I'm not 100% certain whether or not I'll be allowed to. I know that I'm not going to include the rulebook for you. That would be stealing, and I'm not going to do that. I don't know whether or not I'll be allowed to include all these images and rooms that I've already picked and clipped out for you. Again, that's up to Ganesha Games. But there's no reason you can't do the same thing I did, which is clip all these and create these things yourself. Anyway, so you have all of your basic information set up. You start off your diary in your diary. You can start off, this is prettied up now, but I started off with just first putting the 1d6 in there to select what my entrance room looked like and ran that plug-in, and then I went and got a copy of that room, entrance room number 1, and I just copied it, dragged it, and put it into my canvas, which is essentially taking the place of pen and paper, and then went on from there. So hopefully this will help. Take care.